Welcome to the show, everybody. It's Fantasy Football Today, presented by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. I am working on my intro on the fly. Here it is. What do you get when a 32-year-old wide receiver gets traded to a team that's 15th in gross passing yards per game? We don't know. We're going to find out. It's DeAndre Hopkins on his way to the Kansas City Chiefs. How excited are we about this? First of all, the fact that they're 15th in gross passing yards per game is actually higher, like a lot higher than not a lot higher, but higher than I would have thought. So good for them. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to tell you who you should acquire and who you should trade away in your leagues.
You should just take out the 15th part.
What do you mean?
These are gross passing.
Oh, okay, that was pretty good. I didn't know where that was going, but that was a good joke. We're going to talk about the Thursday night game, which hopefully will feature Cooper Kupp, who's on the trade block, Minnesota at the Rams. We're going to grade your trades so we don't have to talk about hypothetical trades. And we are going to play the Fantasy Feud. And our categories today are going to be quarterbacks, pass catchers, and famous Thomases. So, yay. Looking forward to that. All right, what do we think about DeAndre Hopkins going to
Thomas get to play?
I guess he could play. I mean, 4-person Fantasy Feud's like kind of a lot, but, you know.
Is he one of the famous Thomases?
No, he is not. Not yet.
If you had 4 categories, we could have 2 people on the same team and actually play like real Feud.
Oh, this is not Fantasy Feud, by the way. This is Fantasy Jeopardy. Did I say?
Oh,
Idiot, you called it Fantasy Feud.
You did.
I wouldn't have given you the categories if it had been Feud. Sorry, it's Jeopardy. Fantasy Jeopardy we're playing. We're off to a great start.
He doesn't even know the name of his own game show.
Okay, on a
Richard
scale,
Dawson's rolling over in his grave, smoking
on
a
a
cigarette.
scale of 0 to 10, how excited are you about DeAndre Hopkins on the Chiefs?
3.
I'm excited for Mahomes. I'm not like over the moon excited for Hopkins being that much better. He's going to be better, but
Right.
It all depends. Is he on the waiver wire or on my team? Because if he's on the waiver wire, I'm pretty excited. Man, it's been tough out there in the wide receiver streets. And so many injuries, and we just lost 3 more guys. I've got some really bad players that I'm starting at wide receiver, and I may have just dropped DeAndre Hopkins in a league last week, so that's kind of disappointing. But I'd like to add him just to see, because the potential there is fantastic. He still grades out pretty well in terms of route running and getting open. He still has not lost his ability to catch the ball. He just can't do anything afterwards, and he's had a hard time staying on the field. But I mean, if it's kind of a Davante Adams situation where he's going to get to Kansas City and all of a sudden everything that hurt is going to feel okay, then I'll be a lot more excited.
they did just, for what it's worth, resurrect Juju Smith-Schuster.
Right. I was about to say that. If Juju Smith-Schuster can be someone that we're excited about picking up off the waiver wire, Juju's 5 years younger than him. But if Juju's someone that we could be excited about picking up off the waiver wire, I guess we could be excited about picking up Hopkins.
Look, it clearly saves his fantasy value. You know, for anybody who's hanging on DeAndre Hopkins, you're thrilled about this. To Heath's point, if he's on the waiver wire, you should be excited to pick him up when we're comparing him to Jalen McMillan, who's an unknown, Ricky Pearsall, who's an unknown. These other guys that we spent, yesterday talking about that, may not necessarily have huge upside. He's getting, a significant quarterback upgrade. This is going from, Olive Garden to Runway 84.
Are you saying that you would take him over all the guys we talked about yesterday?
The young unproven guys? Yeah.
I'm not ready to say that. I would rather have Juwan Jennings than DeAndre Hopkins. And the caveat is obviously, like, there's 2 things here. Number one, when we saw Juju have that big game, Juju looked pretty good. And so if Juju is like out for the year, then obviously all those targets that we thought would go to Juju, they're going to get shifted to Hopkins. But like 5 years ago, the Chiefs offense would have been like the world-beating, undefeated NFL team. And now you're getting the 32-year-old version of DeAndre Hopkins, who he can still find soft spots against the zone. I watched this film this morning from this year. He can find soft spots. Yes, he can absolutely catch. He still has great technique and great hands, but cornerbacks can run with him. And so he doesn't add that deep speed element. That's what made Patrick Mahomes a monster.
Juju wasn't a burner. Juju's not a burner.
He was in the game that we saw.
Yeah, but I mean, again, just if we're gonna do comps to a guy joining the team, granted Juju has experience in this offense. Juju couldn't get on the field in New England, and then he gets to Kansas City, and all of a sudden he looks great in one game when Rashee Rice wasn't there.
Okay, so maybe DeAndre Hopkins.
I don't think Hopkins.
car wash,
I
is
don't
that
think
what you're
Hopkins
saying?
all of a sudden is going to separate from defenders. He hasn't done that probably 2 or 3 years at this point. But he does know how to use his body. He does know how to
True.
find spots in the zone, as you said, Dave. He does know how to run routes and do it in a way that is going to help his quarterback. So this is going to, hopefully get Patrick Mahomes in a better place for a guy that's still rostered. And I don't know if he's dropped in a few leagues at this point, but he's still got to be 95% plus from 100%. And it clearly saves Hopkins' fantasy value. Now, you said something which is going to be a little telling, is what's Juju's status moving forward.
Yeah.
Because anytime you see a player ruled out on Monday, that probably speaks to multiple weeks as opposed to, a 1 week situation. So I would anticipate this move is also tied to Juju's health, not necessarily just everybody's health. Clearly they needed to add somebody. So, you just take that into account. But there was a little bit of an emergency situation going on here, which is why you heard Cooper Kupp's name mentioned, which is why you heard DeAndre Hopkins' name mentioned. And they may not be done. They may go out and still get somebody else at this point because all they gave was a conditional 4th round pick. So they have plenty of ammunition to go get another player if they need.
And just like it was a bad Titans pass offense last year, but Juju did account for 34% of their receiving yards and Hopkins and 50% of their touchdowns. So I don't think
they all came in one game too. It feels like they all came in one game.
Yeah. No, right. Go ahead, Heath.
No, that's it. I just like there's reason for hope, and so you need to roster him, and we'll start him after he shows that he's worth starting.
Okay. All right. We'll move on from there, and just some more news items before we get into the trade talk here, the fantasy trade talk. Cooper Kupp on the trade block. He's practicing in full. They play Thursday against Minnesota. Jordan Whittington was limited, and the Rams also opened the 21-day window for Puka Nacua to return, so that's cool. Chris Godwin out for at least the rest of the regular season. There's a chance if they make a deep playoff run that Godwin could come back. Mike Evans is unlikely to return before week 12. That is an extended absence for Mike Evans. Weird. I don't know. Alvin Kamara signing a 2-year extension with about $22 million guaranteed, according to NFL Network. Okay. Andy Dalton, hopefully he's okay. He was in a car accident. I haven't seen an update on that, but hopefully he's okay, doing all right. Deebo Samuel is out of the hospital. That's great news. Derek Carr might be more likely to play in week 9 than week 8, but they're going to give it he's throwing. They're going to see how he feels. And Chris Olave coming back from the concussion. He could be in play this week at the Chargers. Cordarrelle Patterson could play this week. Don't know if he'll play much, but he could be back. Should be back, I think, this week. Jameis Winston is expected to start. Tua Tagovailoa trending in the right direction. Jameis has Baltimore. Tua has the Cardinals, so good matchups there. George Kittle day-to-day with a foot sprain. Dallas on Sunday night. Cardinals linebacker Dennis Gardeck is out for the season with a torn ACL. Jacksonville opened the 21-day window for their top linebacker, Foye Oluokun. Micah Parsons and Deron Bland could play this week. We'll see. They're, again, at San Francisco on Sunday night. And Tampa Bay defensive back Tyke Smith is in the concussion protocol. It doesn't sound like they're too optimistic about him playing this week against the Falcons. Now, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code FANTASY. This is a great opportunity for you to get a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app, sign up using the bonus code FANTASY, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code FANTASY when you sign up. All right, you know what? Before we go to break, why don't we do a quick round of buy low here? Everybody give me one buy low. Dave, you always have plenty of names as you work on that trade chart. Who we buying low on?
My favorite buy low is Davante Achane, who we saw what he can deliver as far as upside goes earlier this season. And then we saw the entire Dolphins offense get flushed down the commode without Tua Tagovailoa. It looks like Tua's got a shot to come back in week 8. I think this whole offense gets right back on track, maybe more so in week 9 than week 8, but it's not because of the matchup. It's just because Tua's got to get his feet wet again. And Davante Achane, provided that he stays healthy, can go back to being that versatile weapon out of the run game. I also think the Dolphins have started to find their run game a little bit more over the last couple of weeks. Some of that has to do with Raheem Mostert, but I think Achane can benefit as well. Now is probably your last chance to get Achane at a discount, and it's not going to be as good of a discount as what it would have been 2 or 3 weeks ago. We talked about Tyreek Hill as a buy low. We talked about Waddle as a buy low. We never really talked about Achane. So now it's kind of the last chance to do it.
All right. Heath, you want to give me a buy low?
Yeah, and I was like, you kind of made a big deal about Mike Evans not playing until week 12. I was really encouraged after the way that looked during the game on Monday night that he not going on IR, maybe not out for the entire season. I think if you look at what their schedule is after the week 11 bye, and it's the Giants, the Panthers, the Raiders, the Chargers, the Cowboys, the Panthers. If Mike Evans comes back week 12 and he's 7 games left, 700 yards away from 1,000 yards, and now no Chris Godwin, he could absolutely be a league-winning wide receiver. If I have a 5-2, a 6-1, a 7-0 team, I'm trying to give some other team a low-end wide receiver starter for Mike Evans and just sit him on my bench for the next 3 weeks and hope he wins me the league in the fantasy playoffs.
Can you give me maybe 1 or 2 names that you would trade for him? Like Pickens is too high, right?
Pickens is definitely too high.
That would be generous.
Waddle would be too high at this point, right?
Probably. I'd start lower than that. Like,
I mean, if you're the Evans manager, you're taking almost anything at this point if you're desperate. Like,
sure.
right. And it will depend on how desperate they are. Unfortunately, I had
but
two
that's
teams.
like the perfect scenario of like you pick up Jawan Jennings and you flip him for Mike Evans.
Yep.
You start with somebody like Darnell Mooney, and if it gets turned down, then
I wouldn't trade Darnell Mooney for Mike Evans right now.
I would absolutely trade Darnell Mooney for Mike Evans if Mooney was on my bench.
Okay.
But I'm not
Deontay was bad last week, but I would trade Deontay for him. If you
I mean,
make that
Johnson.
I'd rather have Deontay because he might be next in the receiver trade pipeline.
Shouldn't he just go back to Pittsburgh? Wouldn't that make sense? Okay, let's.
They're never taking him back in Pittsburgh.
Jamie, give me one buy low.
CJ Stroud. I think he's going to have a big week this week against the Colts, and hopefully we get the best of him moving forward when Nico Collins returns. It's been a rough season by where the expectations were. It certainly was his worst game, maybe of his career last week, and how bad he performed against the Packers. He's got a great history against Indianapolis. He may be highlighted this week in a certain way. So like the setup for CJ Stroud this week and moving forward.
All right, we're going to take a break here, and when we come back, we'll give you some more buy lows. I'll ask you guys if you think Marvin Harrison Jr. is a guy to buy low on, and of course, we'll tell you who to sell high. And if Jamie missed it, we're playing Fantasy Feud today, not Fantasy Jeopardy. So that's on me.
Got it. Fantasy Wheel of Fortune. Love it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I was watching a little Wheel of Fortune yesterday. It's my game.
I have an old episode I have to watch though.
Yeah.
Did you just say we are playing Fantasy Feud? You just said we are playing Fantasy Feud, not Fantasy Jeopardy.
What the hell is wrong with me? We're playing Jeopardy. Did I say that? Are you sure?
You know, all these game shows are so similar.
All right, we're playing
As long as
Fantasy.
we're not playing the fantasy dating game with us, I'm good.
All right, we'll be right back on Fantasy Football Yesterday.
Welcome to JJ's.
I'll have a... Wait, there's no way I can get a burger?
No chance, but you can have the NFL on CBS streams live on Paramount+. Oh, hang on. There's a toy.
All right, as we talk more about buy lows, I just want to throw one out that I don't have like, oh, this person statistically is doing that. Like last week, I think I talked about George Pickens and the drop touchdowns, and it seemed like his production could have been so much better. And maybe you buy low on George Pickens. Hopefully that turns out to be, going forward, a good one. I don't have any of those stats for this one, but you just look at his career and look at where we were last year going into his bye week. Dak Prescott, if you need a quarterback, if you're struggling, I don't know what's wrong with the Cowboys offense. They have barely been near the end zone. They have going into their bye. So forget about their bye, right? Going into their bye week, the first 6 weeks of the year, they had run the fewest plays in the NFL inside the 10-yard line, the 5th or the 6th fewest inside the 20-yard line. They just haven't been themselves. But Dak Prescott has been one of the most consistent quarterbacks over the last 4 or 5 years. He's averaged 24 or more points per game and 6-point per passing touchdowns in all but one of those years. He needs his touchdown rate's low. His interception rate is high right now. His completion percentage is a little low. He's not playing great, but I don't feel like they're that far away. I feel like he's forced a couple balls to CeeDee Lamb in the end zone that have been intercepted each of the last 2 weeks. And if you had Baker Mayfield and you're looking for someone who could catch lightning in a bottle, like I could obviously say CeeDee Lamb is a buy low, but the sneaky one to me is Dak Prescott. Do you guys feel like he could, get hot again?
He definitely can, and I'm looking it up right now. So he had 36 fantasy points against coming off his bye last week, and I remember writing this in Start Set. He's won. I always like to look at these veteran quarterbacks when they come off their bye week and what their historical numbers have been. And for Dak, so he averages. This was prior to last year, so it obviously went up 26.9 fantasy points, and this was 6 games after a bye. So he's probably close to 28 points in 7 games after a bye week in his career.
Yeah, that's good. And he doesn't have a great schedule immediately, but it becomes fantastic. Starting in week, I think 11, he's facing teams that are currently 28th, 21st, 24th, 25th, 29th, and 31st against quarterbacks. So I don't know. Like, would you rather have Dak or Tua rest of season?
Dak.
Tua.
All right. And what do you guys think about Marvin Harrison Jr.? I've been a little concerned about his average route depth. It's 4th highest in the NFL. The guys ahead of Marvin Harrison are Alec Pierce, Jordan Addison, and Cortland Sutton. That's an average route depth. I just don't think it's great for number 1 wide receiver to be running routes that deep. However, number 5 on that list is Justin Jefferson. So someone can do it. But do you think we should be buying low on Marvin Harrison? Like, you could obviously say coming off this horrible game, you buy low on him, but what does that mean? Do you think Marvin Harrison can be a top 15 wide receiver rest of season?
He definitely can.
Will be. Do you think he will be?
No.
I don't think so. I don't think Arizona's storing it enough. I don't think they're using him appropriately. I think at times they're using him as a decoy. And I can kind of tell in his body language that he's not too thrilled with what's going on. And then just last week in particular, there were 2 sideline throws that were just way too high for Harrison to bring in. There needs to be a readjustment there. And at the same time, this Arizona offense, I think they're starting to feel their run game. And they're thinking that they've got something there that they can ride. And that's taking pass attempts away from Kyler. I talked to you guys about this earlier in the week, how Kyler, I think it's like 3 games this year with more than 30 pass attempts and none with more than 35. So volume isn't there. Target share isn't as high as we thought it would be. I thought he would be, I thought he'd get like 8-9 targets a game. And not only is he not getting that, he's not being used anywhere close to how he should be used. And I'm frustrated with it. If I have somebody come to me and they're offering me more than I think Harrison is worth right now in trade because they think they're getting the best of Harrison to come, I'm accepting a deal. So I will happily. I don't know. It sounds silly.
Who's around him on the trade chart?
It's sell high based on reputation.
Where is he in the trade chart?
He's low. He's not nearly as high as he once was. I think he's definitely outside of the top 24 among wide receivers.
And his schedule, his next 3 opponents, Miami is number 1 against wide receivers. Chicago is 7th. The Jets are 5th. Now, whether or not Miami's really that good, I don't know. But like I said, even if bad competition, number 1 is impressive. Although Javon Holland, I assume, still won't play, but that's tough. And then he has a bye. Here's a Marvin Harrison trade in our chat. So it's a 5-player trade. I get Marvin Harrison Jr., Brian Robinson, and Jaden Reed. I give Bijan Robinson and Deebo Samuel. Marvin, Brian Robinson, and Reed for Bijan and Deebo.
I mean, if he needs a running back, I'm doing it to get the upgrade over Brian Robinson. I think Bijan Robinson's ceiling's higher.
No, he's giving Bijan and Deebo. And he's
giving Bijan and Deebo.
So he must be thin at receiver.
It's not a bad trade.
Or he thinks he's selling high.
Yeah, I mean, look, we have no idea when Deebo's going to play. So if you're concerned about that, you're getting 2 starters and a very capable running back. So yeah, I like it.
I think it's almost dead even on the trade chart. I'd have to do the math one more time, but when it's even like that, I want the best player in the deal. I think Bijan is the best player in the deal.
I mean, Brian Robinson before he missed the game with knee injury was better than Bijan Robinson.
Let me say something about Brian Robinson. He has had a cupcake schedule. He's really faced like pretty bad run defenses. Yeah. That's not entirely true. But actually, no, the teams that he's run well against have been pretty easy run defenses. But it doesn't get that much harder. He's got a really good schedule for the rest of the season based on what we know now. So I was considering calling him a sell high, but because but I don't think so.
I mean, you could if someone's going to overpay. Same thing that I was saying with Marvin Harrison. If someone's going to shoot, dude, I could say this about literally everybody. If someone's willing to overpay for a player on my team, of course I'm going to let him go.
Right. So let's not. Obviously, if someone's going to overpay, but I don't think Brian Robinson saw it.
But
Okay.
even if someone's going to give like a fair pay for Marvin Harrison Jr., I'm shipping him away. I don't want that headache anymore.
I understand what you're saying. Are there any other buy lows that you guys want to talk about?
Sure.
Yeah, go.
Chris Olave, who might be back this week. Wouldn't want to start him, but Derek Carr will be back. It looks like pieces of that New Orleans offensive line are coming back and getting healthier. And we know Rashid Shaheed is not coming back. And I think that should mean increased targets for Chris Olave. And his value is in the toilet. You might be able to turn Marvin Harrison Jr. into Chris Olave and something else. And I would take that over Marvin Harrison Jr.
You'd rather just have Chris Olave than Marvin Harrison, wouldn't you?
I think on the trade chart, Harrison is still a little bit higher because the value and the perception of Chris Olave is so down right now that I don't think you have to do that trade. I think you could ask for something with Olave.
Okay.
And like in the games they've played, Harrison's been better than Olave this year, right?
Right,
It's
but
probably true.
there's no
He's
Shaheed.
scoring more touchdowns, I'm sure.
Who would you rather have rest of season, Harrison or Olave?
I think I'd still take Harrison.
I think I'd take Olave. And he is actually a point higher in full PPR, same in non-PPR.
Remember Oil of Olave? That's
Mhm.
a hell of a name.
It was a great name. All right, go ahead. Keep firing away. Buy low.
If a manager needs help now and Nico Collins is on their IR, I will happily pay up for Nico Collins. I know we don't know for sure that he's coming back in 2 games, but when he does come back, you're talking about a top 5 fantasy receiver. I don't know if I still love this one now that DeAndre Hopkins is in Kansas City, but Xavier Worthy led the Chiefs in route rate last week. He's playing a lot more, and I wonder if it's just a matter of time before he starts doing more than just one splash play a game, and they get him involved a little bit more in what they do. Now, it means he's going to have to grow a little bit as a receiver. Has he been doing that? I don't know for sure if he has, but he could be a real cheap piece to throw on your bench with the hope that he's the one that kind of changes the dynamic of that offense in Kansas City.
I actually think Hopkins coming to Kansas City might be better for Xavier Worthy because I don't think he has a chance in that role. Working closer to the line of scrimmage, he needs a couple of pieces for defenses to pay attention to closer to the line of scrimmage, and then he can just do the splash play. I don't think he's going to give the Chiefs offense much more than that this season.
See, but I feel like he needs to do more near the line of scrimmage too. That way it forces.
Well, maybe over the offseason he can become a player that can do that.
No, but he did a lot of that at Texas. He had a ton of screens and stuff like that at Texas. Why can't they throw in the ball?
This is not college football.
I agree with you, but there's still screens that they could scheme up for him. They can put him on a tunnel screen and give him a pathway to at least get 3 or 4 yards before contact on the catch.
Let's go.
Give him a runway to run away from people. I haven't seen enough of that.
Jamie Heath, you have any other buy lows that you want to talk about?
No, I think Dave's just onto something. That anytime you have a player that's hurt, that's coming back, hopefully within the next 2 or 3 weeks, and your team is good, and somebody needs help right away, like those are the type of players you should be going after.
I'd check in on Davante Adams. If somebody was discouraged by the first game and think, nope, the Jets just stink and Davante Adams isn't going to help anything, I was encouraged by the fact he got 9 targets in his first game with the team. I still think he'll be the best wide receiver on the team rest of the season. I still think he's probably going to score a bunch of touchdowns. So see if he got cheaper.
I also think in that same vein, you try and see if you can get Garrett Wilson cheap too, because it doesn't look like he's going to completely disappear, and so there still may be the panic on that manager as well.
Yeah, and they've had a really tough schedule so far. They've faced San Francisco, Tennessee, New England, Denver, Minnesota, Buffalo, and Pittsburgh. It's been a tough slate for them through 7 games. Things are going to get better, at least schedule-wise for the Jets. Speaking of schedules, we're on CBS Sports Network every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. This week, our Wednesday show and Tuesday yesterday, we're at noon Eastern, but typically we're at 1 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday on CBS Sports Network. Very fun episodes for you there. And you can watch it live on CBS Sports Network. You can DVR it, or you can catch it later at youtube.com/fantasyfootballtoday. All right, who are we selling high on? Raise your hand if you want to go first. Dave.
I feel like I'm at one of our company town halls, and They ask, all right, who's got questions? And I always raise my hand and ask annoying questions. All right, do you want the old
Are you going to put
overachieving
more Yoo-hoo in the Vendateria?
Is that a thing? It was Yoo-hoo?
I think
Love
Jamie,
you.
weren't you the Yoo-hoo guy?
No.
Oh, Yoo-hoo's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Haven't had-
I'm the Chef Boyardee guy in the cafeteria. It's disgusting. All right, I do want the old overachieving running back or the young overachieving running back as a sell high.
Old.
Kareem Hunt. After this week, he's got some tough matchups. It's Tampa, it's Denver, it's Buffalo, and then in the fantasy playoffs, the Chiefs have the Browns, the Texans, the Steelers, and Isaiah Pacheco could be back by then. And they just traded for DeAndre Hopkins, so they're trying to get their pass game going to take some of that pressure off of their run game. So if you can turn Kareem Hunt into a good starting wide receiver, you might want to consider it. But I wouldn't do it this week. I would wait till after this week. Get the trade talks going now. And then after this week, you'd be like, see, he just had another big game. Okay, let's make the trade.
Yeah, my only issue with that is people know that Pacheco is going to come back, or at least they think he's going to come back. We have to assume that Kareem Hunt is on a limited timeline here. So if you want to sell him and you want to give somebody, if you're going to get something good, you got to sell him now.
Yep.
And, and there's like Javonte Williams, we were talking about Monday on Beyond the Box Score as a sell high. And he's got Carolina this week. And, you could say, well, sell him after Carolina. But no, I say sell him before Carolina. You don't need to rip someone off. And, give them something that's good, and you'll get a better return. And what if he has a bad game against Carolina? Could you imagine? Then his value is going to go in the tank. So if you want to sell Javonte Williams,
Possible.
What's that? Probably
Possible for him to have a bad game against Carolina.
But then
Here we go.
Then he's got Baltimore and Kansas City the next 2 weeks. So if you have a savvy fantasy manager, they're not going to trade for Javonte going into Baltimore and Kansas City. They're going to trade for him before Carolina. So, same concept, I think, with Kareem Hunt. Like, his value is highest now because he's got a short shelf life, assuming that Pacheco comes back. We think Pacheco's coming back, right?
Well, but that's the thing. We don't know for sure that he's coming back. And if Hunt keeps playing at this level, maybe the Chiefs take their time with Pacheco. The problem is that I don't think he can keep playing at this level.
He is running straight and barreling into people. He's
doing Carson Steele's job better than Carson Steele.
Yeah, that's true. Pacheco is like a million times better than Kareem Hunt. Healthy Pacheco anyway.
We'll see when he comes back. But no, I mean, like if you go to the trade chart, Kareem Hunt is not even a top 24 running back, even though he's performing like a top 12 running back lately.
Yeah. All right, who is the young one?
It's Javonte Williams. So great call by the fellas on Beyond the Box Score. And his value is significantly higher than Kareem Hunt's because we know that he's got that gig in Denver rest of season. And he can still contribute when the matchups are bad as a pass catcher out of the backfield. So I would certainly want more for Javonte than for Kareem Hunt. But his schedule, it's tough after this week. Baltimore, Kansas City, Atlanta, Vegas. Okay, it's not all tough. And then he's got the Browns. Then he's got a bye. This might be the time to try and package Javonte with another player to upgrade at running back. Go get Achane.
Jamie, who do you want to sell high on?
We talked about this earlier this week, but Tank Bigsby. I mean, this just seems, not realistic when Travis Etienne is healthy. He's has no work in the passing game, and just had two of his best games against the Colts and the Patriots. So it's this is the opposite of what you're saying. You would have probably said if you're going to sell Tank Bigsby, you should sell him before the Patriots game to, I guess, maximize what his value can be. But also, I think this is all the flip side of that is, I would always prefer to sell a guy coming off of his best game with the hope that somebody's buying him being that type of player because you could use the best game. So I would rather have Javonte Williams this week and then sell him afterwards as opposed to here. Hey, he's going to have a big game. Take him.
Yeah, it depends who you're playing against, right? Yeah. I mean, I want to tell you that in my most casual fantasy league with a few guys who have basically never played fantasy football before, Javonte Williams was on the waiver wire this past week. And so was Rachaad White. I just picked up Rachaad White. So I in a league like that, no one's going, oh, well, he has Carolina this week.
What's your record in that league?
I am 3-4. That was the league where I was the auctioneer and I drafted the worst team I've ever drafted. But through some trades and some transactions, we're okay now.
I don't know if 3-4 is okay.
No, we're getting better. We're getting better. We're getting better. But we have Tank Bigsby. So I'm going to try like hell to trade Tank Bigsby. But I think trading Tanks, I would first look at the ETN manager. I don't know how you feel about that, but that might be the first guy that I try to trade Bigsby.
Yeah, they could be stuck.
Heath, how about you? Who you selling high on?
Before you said Tank Bigsby, that was the guy I was going to say was Tank Bigsby. Still has just 2 targets all season long.
Yeah.
This is going to be a mess when ETN is healthy. That's a prime sell high.
What do you think of Amari Cooper's? This is more of a buy low, or maybe a buy high. But what do you think of Amari Cooper's value? Is a better question. Where do you have Amari Cooper on the trade chart, Dave?
Considerably higher than where he was last week. He is wasting time, 12th among wide receivers.
And he was 13th last week.
PPR. Was he 13th last week? I don't think he was that high last week.
On the trade chart, you mean?
Yeah.
No, in fantasy points scored.
Right. And he did it playing 35% of the snaps.
Right.
Yeah, it was a pretty encouraging debut for Amari Cooper. He had like a 45% target per route run rate or something, but I don't know what people think his value is. Maybe he's probably just a hold.
I think everybody that has Amari Cooper is tickled pink that he's in Buffalo now.
Yeah.
And they probably view him as I view him, which is a low-end number 1 wide receiver. So if you're going to try and trade for Amari Cooper, expect to pay a pretty penny.
Amari Cooper or Stephon Diggs rest of the season?
Cooper.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, Nico's going to be back soon. Not that crushed Amari or Stephon Diggs' value, but you've got to figure that won't help. Plus, Diggs just had a dud game without Nico.
I'm going to read some trade-ish questions here in the chat from Levi. Should I offer T. Higgins for Nico Collins? I have St. Brown, Reed, Metcalf, Dell, and Jennings.
You can offer it. I don't think you'll make it happen unless the Nico manager is desperate.
Okay.
I would offer Reed before I'd offer Higgins.
Agreed.
You'd rather have
Reed.
Wait, who'd you rather have rest of season, Reed or Higgins?
Higgins.
They're tied for me on the trade chart, but the case for Higgins is pretty simple.
Okay. Would you trade Chase for Metcalf and Harrison?
No. We don't know when Metcalf's coming back, and Harrison is not performing at that level.
You don't know when Harrison's going to come back either. Yeah, you might be making a headache for yourself, but there will be weeks, and there have been weeks where DK's been better than Chase. I don't hate that one.
Yeah, it depends how you feel about the injury. Would you drop Christian Watson for Jalen McMillan?
No, not Jalen McMillan.
Oh, yeah, for the other guys.
No.
And then, all right, do I have Kupp and Puka Nacua? Do I sell or hold?
I think you absolutely hold right now, because if Kupp gets traded, then you have potentially 2 number 1 wide receivers on different teams.
Agreed.
Is this too much? George Pickens and Tony Pollard for Nico Collins.
You would have absolutely done that trade a week ago. And it's the game that Pickens just had with Russ that makes me hesitate a little bit.
I would make this trade. If you're not
Pickens
starting either of these 2 players or consistently starting either of them, yeah.
Yeah, you mean the Pickens-Pollard side.
I would rather have Nico Collins if I don't need to start Pickens and Pollard.
Okay, and I'll say the other thing, which is Pickens and Pollard. I think that they'll be better combined than Nico and average Joe.
Aaron,
Especially since Nico's got 2 more games on the sideline.
Aaron wants to know, would you trade Brian Thomas Jr. or Garrett Wilson for Nick Chubb?
No.
Dave, where's Nick Chubb on the trade chart?
Still low. And honestly, I think more of the offensive line was a problem for Chubb than Chubb himself in the matchup last week. He's outside of the top 20 for sure among running backs.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're previewing Thursday Night Football. Minnesota's at the Rams. That's up next on Fantasy Football Today. And then we are playing Fantasy Something later on in the show. We'll be right back.
Can I get a spot real quick?
Yeah, sure, man. Hey, wait a minute. You're Dave Richard from FFT.
Yeah.
Huh. Hey, I snagged Alvin Kamara in the 4th round. What do you think?
Is it PPR?
Yeah, full point.
I haven't seen those promos in a while, those FFT promos for those of you listening. You're missing a lot on YouTube. All right, Dave, Minnesota's at the Rams.
Nah.
Okay, the Vikings defense, they are 6th in yards per play allowed, 6th fewest yards per play, 19th in yards per game. They see the 3rd most plays per game. Only the Bengals and Colts see more plays per game defensively than the Minnesota Vikings. And also a little note on them. the Minnesota Vikings is that the DST has scored. The DST has scored 3 touchdowns this year. That's a little fluky, probably. Yeah, it is, but we're good for them. Okay. What do we think about Sam Darnold this week, coming off only 18.3 fantasy points, but he was 22 of 27 for 259 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Starter, sit Sam Darnold.
Start him.
Start.
Top 8 quarterback.
Whoa. Okay. The Rams are 8th in pressure rate, which surprised me. The Lions did not get a lot of pressure on Darnold last week. But okay, top 8 quarterback. Wow. So who are you starting him over? And wait, before I get into that, the Rams' pass defense hasn't really been that bad. They are probably going to be missing Colby Durant, cornerback, but it's not as easy as a matchup necessarily as I thought it was. Okay, go ahead. Who are you starting him over?
I'm starting him over Dak. I'm starting him over Goff. I'm starting him over Stroud, Cousins, Tua, Kyler, some guy named Mahomes. I like what I've seen from Darnold for the majority of the season, and the matchup doesn't scare me. I think as long as he's got Justin Jefferson to throw to, as long as Aaron Jones is making plays out of the backfield, I think he can find good numbers.
I'm sorry, you said a lot of names there. The 2 quarterbacks in the Miami, Arizona. Well, you have to start him over.
He's
Tua.
over both of them.
Yeah.
Especially since we don't know 100% that Tua is going to play. We think he's going to play.
Okay. Start Aaron Jones, right? Like, don't even need to talk about that one. Rams are horrible against running backs. Start Justin Jefferson. How do we feel about Jalen Naylor and or Jordan Addison, Heath?
I would rather not, but I think Addison is a borderline number 3 wide receiver, just with all the injuries that we've had so far this season. You're hoping for a long touchdown from one of those guys. I would rather start Addison. And yeah, I've got him at 37th. So if you're desperate, it's fine. You could do much worse. I'd rather start him, I think, than all of the waiver wire guys except for Tyler Lockett, who was available in like 40% of leagues yesterday. But all the other waiver wire guys, I'd rather start Addison over them.
Okay.
I'd start Jennings over him if he plays and Debo does not.
I might also take the chance on McMillan against Atlanta, just based on opportunities. Like, I think McMillan will get more targets than Addison.
Yeah, the Addison, by the way, has had an ADOT of 18.5 yards or higher in 3 straight games. That is super high, which reminds me, I meant to bring this up when we were talking about Hopkins. Calvin Ridley's ADOT this year is something like 18.5 yards.
It's very high.
Insane. You can't be good like that. It's just insane.
Especially when the quarterback is throwing it 22 or 15 air yards.
Yeah. Starter sit TJ Hawkinson if he plays against the Rams defense that looks kind of bad. Well, the last 2 weeks they've been absolutely horrible against tight ends. Starter sit Hawkinson if he plays.
You got to sit him the first game, like unless you're just completely stuck at tight end. The only scenario I think that you'd want to start him would be is if you have to activate him off IR on your roster, have no one else to drop, and your tight end has been like Dalton Schultz or Tyler Conklin or one of these guys. Like, you just take the chance on that. But I think if you have a capable tight end, you want to give Hawkinson a week to see what he looks like.
Okay, so then on the Rams side, look, I'm going to tell you something here. No teams are on bye this week. I know there are a lot of injuries, so that does make things interesting. But it's like, I don't know how many of these fringy Jordan Addison types are going to. I don't know what Jordan Addison's start percentage is going to be. It's probably going to be less than 50%. He's,
I don't know if it's been north of 50% at all this season.
Yeah, it might be in the 20s. I just don't know how many tough decisions there are going to be.
Well, but I think wide receiver is different because we've lost so many guys that there are teams that have lost 3 starting wide receivers, and they're pretty happy to have Jordan Addison.
He's currently starting in 63% of CBS lineups.
Well, no one's.
I would guess he'll be over 50%.
Yeah,
he's no one's sent their lineups yet, though. But you're probably all right. I mean, I undersold it. I forget. Erase that. Fantasy Jeopardy. All right, Matthew Stafford. Any interest in starting Stafford if Cup plays?
Well, Cup is playing, so.
Okay. Well, sorry. They haven't said what kind of workload he's going to have yet. They were sort of like, we don't know. Yeah, that's. I
guess I shouldn't say that with such certainty, because if they are going to trade him, that we may get the holdout.
Yeah.
For the game, just to make sure he doesn't get hurt again.
Or this is the showcase game. and they run the entire thing through Cooper Kupp to show the rest of the league what he can do.
Well, I have a feeling that if he plays, they're going to run the entire thing through Cooper Kupp, no matter what.
No, I mean, they've got Kyron Williams, and I think they've built some confidence in their other wide receivers to where they don't have to if they don't want to. But I also think it's Cooper Kupp showing the Rams what he can do. I think the Rams, if they win the game, I think they hold on to Kupp for at least another week. If they lose the game, then they trade Cooper Kupp. But either way, if Cooper Kupp is himself and the coaching staff feels like he's himself, and certainly they've let him take his time to come back, certainly should be a high volume game for him.
And I meant the passing game. Obviously, they're going to feature Kyron Williams.
The funny thing is, I said this yesterday, they're still right in the thick of it to win the division.
Oh, yeah.
So they got to be looking at it. Puka comes out and says he doesn't want Kupp to get traded. I'm sure Kupp doesn't want to get traded. I would imagine Stafford doesn't want Kupp to get traded. If they get something, the report about the Chiefs were in conversations with the Rams, and the Rams wanted at least a second-round pick. Like, for what receivers are going for right now, unless you're Aaron Rodgers making the trade, a second-round pick's hard to get. So he's most likely going to stay with the Rams.
Do we think that Cooper Kupp is going to be a top 8 receiver rest of season?
I can't see that if Puka comes back.
Okay.
But top 15, I mean, look, that's where we were drafting both these guys. So if everybody's healthy, rest of season, Stafford stays healthy, offensive line is okay. Like, it's a lot of ifs, but there's certainly a path to it. Remember, this is the point when they got hot last year too.
Speaking of Kyron Williams here, Heath does have him 11th in PPR. Dave and Jamie have Kyron top 5, and I'm guessing Heath because he has 1 target in his last 2 games.
Yeah, I think he's higher in non-PPR, but it doesn't matter. He's top 12. You're starting him.
Okay. Well, but you have Mixon and Pollard and Mason ahead of him. So there are scenarios, I guess, for you where people could be sitting Kyron Williams, but he's a start.
That's not Heath's crazy ranking this week.
What's Heath's crazy ranking this week?
Oh, we're going to discuss it on CBS Sports Network.
I don't even know what it is. I'm glad we're going to do that. That's exciting.
So let's talk about the Rams wide receivers. And Heath, I'll give you the first word. How do you see it with the Rams wide receivers this week?
If Cooper Kupp plays, you start Cooper Kupp. I do think that Tutu Atwell is interesting in that Jordan Addison range of a guy that could make your day with one play. I think he's 5th in terms of explosives per target this season. Done a really good job down the field, and we'll see less attention if Cooper Kupp is there. He'll also see fewer targets, but he's a number 3 wide receiver.
This team, by the way, they allow the most fantasy points to wide receivers. Last week, it was not just St. Brown having a huge game. It was also Khalif Raymond. We were hoping it'd be Jamison Williams, but it was Khalif Raymond who had 3 catches for 39 yards and a touchdown. Garrett Wilson had a huge game. Jaden Reed, huge game. Dontavian Wicks, huge game. They're not, I don't know that they're so bad, but they just see a lot of pass attempts, and it translates to wide receiver fantasy points. Also, they give up the 5th most receiving yards to slot wide receivers, and everyone on the Rams plays in the slot a lot. All right, so start Kupp, think about Tutu Atwell, and sit Colby Parkinson.
Yeah.
And just people are going to have Kupp questions here. So you guys have him. I think Heath, you're the lowest on him at 14, but pretty high. Something like that.
Yeah, I'm at 14.
All right. Amari Cooper or Cooper Kupp?
Kupp.
I think I have Cooper higher.
They're both Cooper.
Yeah. Amari.
I think I have Amari. I actually have them back to back. Cooper is higher than Cooper.
Yeah. So
Kupp is over Cooper by 1 spot in full PPR.
We could have done a Wheel of Fortune before and after.
And that's very funny coming from someone with 2 first names.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's do some great trade here from our.
Are we done with the game?
Minnesota DST starter sit.
Yeah, I was going to say we should probably talk about the DSTs.
Well, one of them starter sit Minnesota.
Is anybody sitting Minnesota's DST?
No, it's crazy to do that, especially with the offensive line being what it is. Stafford's going to get rid of the ball quickly to Kupp, and that's basically going to be their passing game.
I think they're a little overrated with the 3 touchdowns.
I think they work hard on forcing the quarterback into mistakes, and that's why they have 3 touchdowns. How many of them does Van Ginkel have?
2.
But 3 touchdowns in 6 games is obviously ridiculous. No,
but that doesn't I think that they would be good if they had not scored 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, they would be. Not
So-
last week, but in the other games that they scored touchdowns, yes. Okay, well, but this is a great waiver wire week for DSTs.
Fantastic.
So I don't know. Would you start the Chiefs over them? Would you start the Chargers over them? And
Yep.
Yes, but
And
that's requiring a transaction, which I don't know if I want to make. Like
Right. If I've got the Vikings, and I think they have the Colts next week. Like
They do.
I'm just
Jacksonville
holding-
after that. Tennessee after that.
okay, hold on to them for one more day.
For,
Let's grade the trades.
2 more months.
Hold on. Yeah. Grade the trade from Tyler. He says, hey, Andre, Sean, Harrison, and David. Heath, I'm looking at you. Andre, Sean, Harrison, and David. These are Warriors role players in 2015.
Okay.
I don't even know. Andre Iguodala, I'm guessing David Lee, Harrison Barnes. Who's Sean?
Livingston?
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Damn it. With Ray Davis playing so well, will he earn himself a 50-50 split? Should we sell high on James Cook right now?
That's not a grade the trade at all.
It's grade the trade. Trade related
Make
question.
the trade. That's not grade the trade.
Make the trade. Yeah, sorry.
I mean, you should have done it 2 weeks ago, probably.
I don't know if I'm buying this idea that Ray Davis is going to have that big of a.
He's not going to have a 50-50 split.
Nah, he
with
barely
James Cook,
played with
but-
Cook last week.
But it's also not a bad idea to sell high on James Cook if someone's still buying him. So if you're, able to get something significant in return, then why wouldn't you look to do that? Because his production has scaled down lately, and he's battling a toe injury.
And the bigger problem is not that Ray Davis, it's that they insist on continuing to play 3 running backs. They all scored a touchdown last week. James Cook has 3 games this season with 0 or 1 targets.
Yeah.
Like this is a perfect player if you picked up somebody during his absence, or your running back, your running back core is deep. Like trade him for McCaffrey.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. From I don't have a name here. From a city in Michigan, west of Lansing.
Is there a West Lansing?
What did Dan say on the mailbag?
Yeah. Michigan. It was like from a city in what did he say?
It was a city in Michigan.
Yeah, a city in Michigan. Go blue. And he goes, "Oh,
There he
Michigan."
goes, Michigan.
He didn't say Michigan. He just said Michigan because he meant Ann Arbor. But he just said Michigan. So it's classic Dan.
Don't hate on me if I'm wrong. Let's go with Battle Creek, Michigan. This is Rob from Battle Creek, Michigan.
Rob from Battle Creek. 12-team half PPR. Give up Amon-Ra St. Brown. Get T. Higgins and Kareem Hunt. I am the Pacheco manager.
You're getting St.
I mean,
No, you're
Giving
giving
St.
St.
Brown for Higgins and Hunt.
if you need the running back depth, it's not bad because you're going to have the Chiefs starter and Higgins. I mean, prior to last week, had been out producing St. Brown. Now you have a 2-game window here of St. Brown being that guy again. Without Jameson there, without
James
a
Williams has 9 targets in his last 4
Yeah,
games.
but why has St. Brown not been that guy? Because the run game's been good and because somebody else made some big plays down the field. I mean, it's
They're
just
not throwing that much.
okay,
Yeah.
but somebody else is taking away some big production. I mean, when Jameson Williams scores a 70-yard touchdown, that's less possession and less opportunities for St. Brown to score. So
Yeah, he's still been awesome. But you're right.
yeah,
I'm
but
not ready to
Higgins
make
has been right there with him.
It's true. Yeah, I think he's averaging like half a point less in half PPR per game than.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're not giving away Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're getting a pretty significant piece in return and a running back, by the way, who's got very, very solid scoring potential. And he's the Pacheco manager, so he's giving himself the Chiefs backfield. So I don't mind this.
Grade it.
B-.
There you go.
It's a C-.
Heath?
I already said C- like 5
I
minutes
didn't
ago.
hear you. All right. Half PPR. Oh, no. This is a 10-team PPR from Brandon. Would you trade Tony Pollard, Jaden Reed, and Amari Cooper? Tony Pollard, Jaden Reed, Amari Cooper.
A lot.
For Jonathan Taylor and Brock Bowers.
I don't know if that's enough for Taylor and Bowers.
The key distinction is that it's a 10-team league.
Did they make this trade, or is this grade the trade or make the trade?
He hasn't made it yet.
So it's make the trade.
Yeah.
Yes, if you can get Taylor and Bowers, I like it.
A 10-team league, I would, because the depth doesn't matter near as much.
And he still has Aaron Jones. He has McCaffrey and Mason. He has Kupp, London. He's got a good team. So maybe the Bowers upgrade's worth it. Okay. From Josh, PPR. I traded Pollard for Lamb straight up.
Okay.
A+.
Yep.
And then I turned around and I traded Higgins and Shakir into Montgomery and Waddle. Woo!
This guy's a wizard.
Nice. All right. A's around.
Yeah.
From Charles, give up Jonathan Brooks, get Jake Ferguson and Rico Dowdle.
I'm good with that. That's a B.
B.
It's fine.
Okay, that sounds like a C plus.
You traded a mystery box on a bad team for the number 2 target getter in Dallas and somebody who sometimes has runs longer than 4 yards.
It is like I'm really interested to see what the Cowboys' pass distribution looks like coming out of the bye, because Jake Ferguson's been a disappointment so far this season.
I think it's going to look like this: Lamb, 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 Ferguson, Lamb, 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 Lamb.
Because
jump balls, 4 jump balls.
Tolbert, I think Tolbert's out targeted Ferguson since Cooks went down.
Jerry paid a big guy lamb, big guy lamb.
Okay. From Abraham, give up Kareem Hunt, get Jalen Waddle.
His stats look like yellow snow.
Hey.
What's the trade?
Give up Kareem Hunt for Jalen Waddle.
B-.
It feels like a C to me.
All right.
But I am not a Waddle guy.
Real quick on these last ones here. Give up Adams and Dobbins for Justin Jefferson. 14-team, 2-receiver PPR league.
A.
A.
Oh, 14-team makes it a B.
Okay. And give Tank Bigsby, get Amari Cooper.
Oh my gosh.
A.
Give James Conner and Mark Andrews, get Ken Walker and Jake Ferguson.
I mean, this isn't real. This isn't real life.
A.
It's an A+ with extra credit.
Give Chubb and Pittman.
You win.
Get Pickens and Singletary.
Oh my gosh.
Well, Nick Chubb could be. Let's not completely discount Nick Chubb. He could be very valuable at some point.
You're
Pickens should be
still
a top
getting
10 receiver,
Pickens,
by the way.
and that's the best player in the deal right now.
All right.
Trades in your league with your auction buddies?
No. It's time now for Fantasy Wheel of Feud Jeopardy. Fantasy Jeopardy, 3 categories: quarterbacks, pass catchers, and famous Thomases for $200, $400, and $600. Heath is our reigning champion. Welcome back, Heath. Tell us about yourself. I understand you coach basketball and you coach your colleague's son.
Got a really great team. We're working towards our first tournament. We're getting better, learning the offense, learning how to run hard.
He's got a power forward. He's got to use his right hand.
There you go. All right, your board is yours. Quarterbacks, pass catchers, or famous Thomases?
He's
Famous Thomases for 600, please.
Famous Thomases for 600. Wow. Can you help him? He's bent. Or I'll do it like this. Can you help him? He's bent. Okay, I'm going to get the wrong buzzer up here. Who's Rob Thomas? Yeah, lead singer of Match.
Famous Thomases for 400, please.
Not the guy who moderates our Facebook chat.
Wow, he's that famous already. Good job, Rob.
While many say he is for 400, Famous Thomas is for 400.
How famous is he? I didn't sing a song lyric we had no clue about.
I'm surprised you don't know that song, Bent.
No,
That's bad. While many say,
I don't think it is.
How many more categories did you give yourself an opportunity to sing? Well, look, my guitar's right here.
Famous Thomas is for 400. While many say he looks like Adam Azer, he is best known for striking out the Mets' best hitter with a floater, leading the sad sack Chicago Cubs to victory. In a movie.
I know what the movie is, but I don't know what
What's
the character's name is. So hit the buzzer. Let's go on.
No, I got it. Dave. Who is Rowan Gardner?
It's the famous Thomas.
Is it Thomas?
I don't know what Rowan Gardner's first name is.
Oh my God, it's
Jamie, you're up.
I don't know his last name.
Who is Thomas Ian Nicholas?
I knew it. I was gonna say Ian Thomas. I thought Ian might be his first name.
The Panthers tight end?
Yeah, exactly. Famous Heath, board's still yours.
Famous Thomas is for 200, please.
All right, here we go. Famous for his mustache and dating a
Dave.
Go ahead.
Who is Tom Selleck?
Hey, congratulations. Do you know how I was going to finish that?
No.
Famous for his mustache and dating a much younger girl on a 90s sitcom, on a famous 90s sitcom.
I thought you were going to sing. Quarterbacks for 200, Steve.
He leads all quarterbacks in off-target rate and air yards per pass attempt by a mile. Jamie.
Anthony Richardson.
Hey, Jamie's on the board, tied with Dave. Jamie, the board is yours.
The highest we go is 600?
Yes.
All right, quarterbacks for 600.
Removing Russell Wilson, he is the only quarterback that is top 5 per game with fewer than 91 rushing yards.
Heath. Who is Baker Mayfield?
He's got more.
He's got 91 rushing yards, I think.
Jamie. Who is Kirk Cousins?
Dave. Who is Jordan Love?
Hey, Dave. Way to go. Jordan Love. Yeah. Last year he did it. He was top 5, I think, with fewer than a certain amount of rushing yards. He set some – I don't know. Jordan Love is unusually good for a guy who doesn't really run that much. Last year he was, and this year.
I thought he'd run a little bit more this year. That's true.
Jameis of the North.
Dave, you're up.
Quarterbacks for 400, Thomas Ian Nichols.
Nicholas. He leads all quarterbacks in passing plus rushing touchdowns.
Jamie. Kyler Murray.
I feel like this is a trick question. Dave?
Yes, that's you.
Who is Jordan Love?
Heath.
Yeah.
Who is Baker Mayfield?
Hey, Heath is on the board. Baker Mayfield leads all quarterbacks in passing plus rushing touchdowns. So right now we have Dave with 800, Jamie with 200, and Heath with 400.
Let's stop the game right here. I think we're good.
And we have $1,200 on the board. So Heath, the board is yours. Pass catchers for 2, 4, or 6.
Let's go ahead and do 2.
He leads all running backs in receiving yards. Can't lose points, guys.
Yeah, I know.
He leads all running backs in receiving yards.
Dave.
I'm sorry, Dave.
Wow, I didn't even answer. Do I get to answer? Or are you going to buzz me again?
Yeah.
Who is Breece Hall?
Correct. What do you have? 1,000 now?
Yep.
I'm not keeping track of this.
There's 1,000 points left, so it's still anyone's game. Dave, for 400 or 600, what do you got?
600, Alex.
This AFC North wide receiver is second in explosive catch rate, explosive catches per target, behind only Nico Collins, minimum 20 targets. Heath.
Who is Jamar Chase?
Jamie.
Who's Rashad Bateman?
Oh, Jamie. 800 points for Jamie. What do you? Dave has 1,000. Heath has 400. Heath has been eliminated.
Pretty much sure Jamie just had 200 and got 400, so he has 600 now.
No, that was for 600.
Oh, I thought it was 400.
I think no, it's for 600.
It was 600.
Okay, finally, I got one right.
Good.
All right, this one is to decide it all. Jamie needs it to win. For $400 dues, he leads all wide receivers in drops.
Heath. Who is Amari Cooper?
Oh, Heath spoils it for Jamie and makes it a very competitive game. The other one, there's actually 2 right answers there, is Darius Slayton and Amari Cooper.
Well, I mean, we have Final Jeopardy, right?
We do not have Final. Would you like Final Jeopardy? I could come up with Final Jeopardy.
I just want this to be over with already.
I'm going to do another famous Thomas, but wait, if you guys have to figure out the, you have to figure out the points while I figure out a famous Thomas.
What is that?
1,800, 800, right?
Yep.
1,800, 800. Okay. Okay. Here we go. You need to IM me or text me your wager.
Okay.
All right. So go ahead and do that. Yeah, it's terrible.
All right, I texted. I sent it in G chat.
Okay, I got Dave's.
I texted you.
I have Heath's. This is the worst podcast ever. Okay, and I have Jamie's.
Maybe now's a good time to remind everyone that we won the podcast awards.
Yes,
Best
we did.
Sports category podcast. Thank you for your votes, everybody. Really means a lot. And while you're here, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and like and subscribe. It helps the channel grow so that you get informative fantasy football analysis on a daily basis. And now back to our host, Idiot Moron.
Okay, let me just get the year here. He is famous for his 1979 album, Damn the Torpedoes.
Jamie.
Wait, no, we all get to answer here. Does everybody have their answer? They all
we text you?
No, you have to be honest with who you're gonna say on our system here. Or say it at the same time. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
Tom, no idea.
Tom Petty, you said, Heath?
Yeah, I said Tom Petty. Yeah.
Jamie said Tom Petty, and Dave didn't know. Dave bid $0. Heath bid $1. Jamie told me to screw off. So Dave is still the winner of Fantasy Jeopardy. And we are out of here. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching and listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow on Fantasy Football Today.